It has been a year of healing for the LGBTQ community in Colorado. 1 year ago, we shared stories of grief following the shooting at Club Q in Colorado Springs. A gunman ended the hopes, dreams, and futures of 5 people. Their pictures still stand outside the closed club today. We reflect on their lives today and share the stories of the surviving victims and how they're recovering 1 year later. First, we remember Daniel Aston, the bar supervisor. He had just moved to the Springs 2 years earlier to be closer to family. Kelly Loving's sister called Kelly a wonderful person. Ashley Paw loved the Colorado outdoors and loved to hunt, fish, and ride four-wheelers. Derek Rump worked at Club Q after finding the community of people that he loved. And Derek, like Daniel, were the heart and glue of Club Q, friends say. And Raymond Green Vance visited the club for the first time with his longtime girlfriend while celebrating a birthday party. The gay and lesbian community often says there is the family you're born with and the family you choose. Both were there for a remembrance ceremony at the scene of the shooting on Sunday. Your reporter, Gabriela Vidal, takes us there.
Hundreds were in attendance to remember the 5 lives that were taken far too soon 1 year ago here at Club Q, and the pain that still lingers to this day for a community that's forever changed.
Never did we ever think anything like this could ever happen to our family.
Tears, hugs, and tons of flowers on display.
Being here at the 1 year still just doesn't seem real at all.
A surreal moment.
I will never forget what happened here, and I implore you not to either.
As a community broken by loss continues to pick up the pieces 1 year later.
1 year since evil intentionally took lives, tore apart families, and shook our community, especially the LGBTQ plus community.
Ashley was she loved her family more than anything.
For Stephanie Clark and her family, Ashley Paul will always be remembered as a sister and aunt who had a passion for helping foster children and loved the outdoors.
She was really loving, supportive, and just fun to be around. I just really miss her and wish I had more time with her.
More time.
Daniel Aston, Derek Rump, Ashley Powell, Kelly Loving, and Raymond Green Vance.
That all these families can't get back.
What can I do now that you're gone? Now that you've moved to that great beyond, my bicycle wheel has lost its spokes. No one's around to laugh at my dad jokes.
More time now dedicated to making the Colorado Springs community a safe space for all.
And hope that there is a big enough outcry that we have to keep these queer spaces protected.
The owner of Club Q tells me that he hopes this memorial dedicated to the 5 lives that were lost and countless others injured will be completed sometime within the next 3 months. In Colorado Springs, Gabriela Vidal covering Colorado First.
The man who emerged as a hero for holding down the killer is asking others to keep the families of those who died in their thoughts and prayers. Brian Flores shares more from U.S. Army veteran Richard Fierro, who's received honors, but at a huge loss.
Richard Fierro gets together often with his family and closest friends, gathering at the family brewery, Atrevida. A key member of the close-knit group is missing, the love of his daughter's life. Raymond Green Vance is one of the 5 who perished at Club Q. Fierro's daughter, Cassie, dated him from the time both were 14 until Raymond died at 22.
And Ray was taken from her in a violent, very violent way. And for my daughter to lose her hopes and dreams like that in an instant, completely unbeknownst to her that was going to happen that night.
Cassie had said meeting Raymond was the best thing that ever happened to her. Living life without him is a daily struggle.
She is a beautiful young woman, and she's working really hard to move in a direction that I think Ray would be appreciative of. And she says it she sees him in her dreams, and that gives her a lot of solace.
Active shooter, all units respond.
Many stories have emerged of those who joined Fierro to subdue the mass shooter and provide first aid to the injured.
It means something to me when I say I'm not the hero. All of us did heroic things. Chip, my best friend, was keeping his wife alive by putting pressure on her wounds. She had been shot 5 times. So for you to be shot in the knees and on your knees, putting pressure on your wife to keep her alive, not knowing if this guy's coming back to kill you, those are heroic moments that you can't describe and that people don't really know about.
In the days following the shooting, people around the world wanted to support Fierro's brewery. Atrevida means daring.
We still get that support. We still have folks coming in saying thank you or whatever the case may be. I thank them because they took the time out of their day to do that for me.
Brian Flores covering Colorado First.
17 others are recovering from physical and emotional scars. Chip and Joanne Law shared a hospital room in Colorado Springs a year ago after surviving the mass shooting. They continue to receive medical care. Chip says it's been helpful getting back to work and raising their kids. It's also been nice to have friends and neighbors show them kindness.
Our church came out in force, decorated our home for Christmas, which was just awesome when we got out of the hospital. That was so healing for us.
Still, the husband and wife continue dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. They are now working with a therapist regularly to process what they've experienced and learn to manage triggers. Alan Janae shares the story of one victim shot 9 times that night. He talked with Ashton Gamblin.
I think there's still a lot more, psychologically to go through, physically.
Ashton Gamblin is still recovering from the Club Q tragedy. When the mass shooting happened last month in Lewiston, Maine, her first instinct was to jump on the phone.
Immediately started making phone calls and trying to help them start the process of getting Maine the support and everything that they did for us over there.
Gamblin has met survivors of the growing number of mass shootings. Through an organization called Victims First, she has learned a lot. And she wants to prevent the re-victimization of people who survive mass casualty events.
One of the people that I really connected with was one of the girls from Las Vegas, and we talk regularly. I've called her during anxiety attacks and moments of uncertainty, and it's nice having somebody that knows exactly that feeling, especially the feelings that you can't describe going through.
Gamblin spent Independence Day in her basement trying to drown out the sound of fireworks.
4th of July was a contest. A lot of illegal fireworks out here.
She wants to see common sense laws to prevent mass shootings and measures such as the banning from public sites videos that can cause harm to victims.
Our worst life experience shouldn't be somebody's entertainment on YouTube. If you want to teach another police department what went wrong, sure. Keep it between yourselves.
If she's learned anything from the accepting community she found at Club Q, Gamblin says it's having no fear to speak out for what she thinks is right. I'm Alan Janae, covering Colorado First.
And Club Q was the site of a massacre in November 2022, and now it plans to reopen by January. It will reopen inside the Satellite Hotel. It will be renamed the Q. It's a little more than 4 miles from the original club. Many in Colorado Springs are awaiting the return of that meeting place for the LGBTQ community. Our Karen Lee tells us how a survivor of the tragedy has pledged to be the first customer through the doors when the new club, rebranded the Q, reopens.
Ed Sanders says he's been focused on living since last November.
Living a little bit more fuller now than I was before because of escaping death.
Sanders attended a recent memorial for those who died at Club Q. He was especially close to bartenders Derek Rump and Daniel Aston.
They called me Mr. Ed, and they took me home. They gave me rides when Uber wasn't available at 2 a.m., and they just were lights in the community.
Kelly Loving died in Sanders' arms.
She wasn't breathing right, and we were trying to encourage her to breathe and tell her it was going to be okay, but when they took her out, she was gone.
While the Club Q massacre traumatized so many people in Colorado Springs, Sanders says the crime does not define what this community is about.
The city is welcoming and friendly, and they were so supportive after this event that including the mayor, Southers.
But Colorado Springs is without a place to anchor the LGBTQ community, Sanders says. He is pledging to be the first in line the day a new club reopens.
Because I feel like I lost something. I lost my home, my family, my place, safe place, and I want it back. And that's why I want to be first.
Karen Lee, covering Colorado First.
A group is planning to build a permanent memorial that will sit outside of the old Club Q. 5 tall stone pillars will represent the 5 lives lost, and 17 boulders will surround them to represent the people injured in the shooting. Organizers raised $300,000 to build that memorial. They did it from selling merchandise at Pikes Peak Pride and crowdfunding. Long after the crime scene at Club Q was cleared, victims struggled this year to receive money that was donated to their cause. And we're learning the nonprofit collecting Club Q victims' donations, called the Colorado Healing Fund, is preparing to distribute the remaining $120,000 donated dollars to survivors. Well, this comes after the nonprofit has faced harsh criticism from victims this fall for holding on to that money. The organization says it was holding out to pay for long-term needs, but survivors and victims advocates tell us they've had to beg for checks from the donations pot this year, something they say makes it difficult to heal.
I think it reflects a bigger need for change, how we approach philanthropy, how we approach nonprofits, and how we approach working with people that we view as powerless. Because the fact is they're not powerless, we make them powerless when we make the choice that we know better what to do with their funds. Yeah, I mean, I had a friend that
And we found there's little oversight to hold organizations accountable for their handling of donated money meant to go to survivors of mass tragedies. Of course, investigator Katie Weiss is here with the story she's working on for CBS News Colorado at 10. Katie, what inspired you to look into this story?
Well, Michelle, really, it was just, I feel time and time again, our team has been hearing concerns and criticism over the years about the handling of donated money for victims after incidents like the Aurora Theater shooting, the Boulder grocery store shooting, and years ago, and even natural disasters like the Marshall Fire with Club Q victims have been incredibly outspoken on this issue and have been driving some of the changes already. And so we felt it was important to shine a light on this and identify some potential solutions.
Yeah, and some people, they really feel it's time for better oversight over some of these nonprofits and how they handle donations for victims.
Yeah, absolutely, Michelle. They feel that the government really, if they won't step in to try to mitigate these issues and mitigate the mass violence incidents from happening, then there should at least be some kind of changes made on the back end to ensure that if someone does fall victim to a senseless crime like this, that they will get the help that they need.
And this is something not only in Colorado, this is an issue happening all over the country, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's not unique to Colorado. There were similar concerns from victims after the Pulse shooting in Orlando, for example. And I've also spoken with some advocates in other states who are working on some approaches that they believe can help victims of these tragedies to receive long-term funding that they'll be needing. And I'll tell you about that coming up tonight in my full report at 10 o'clock.
Okay, we'll be watching. Katie, thank you so much. Well, Senators Michael Bennet and John Hickenlooper honored the victims by introducing a resolution for the Senate to recognize the attack and express solidarity and support for survivors. They said everyone deserves the right to be who they are and love who they love without fear. We'll never forget the victims and the survivors of the shooting. And to watch their stories anytime, just go to our website, cbscolorado.com.